I'm looking for integrity. I'm looking for your soul because I can find the money. We need someone in our assets that has integrity, that has character. We had built our own personal revenue stream. I could live my best life for the rest of my life having had this experience of a life-threatening encounter and really valuing life more than those 2 years.
Welcome to the Kaizen Blueprint, the podcast dedicating to helping you achieve a better life through continuous improvement. If you're ready to elevate your finances, grow your investment, and unlock your full potential, you're in the right place. Each episode brings an expert insight on personal development, finance, and real estate, giving you the tools to build lasting success. Now, let's go to today's episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kaizen Blueprint podcast. My name is Aldo. I'll be your host. Today, I have Kim Avant-Babb. Is a seasoned real estate investor, author, coach, and co-founder of Babb Properties LLC and Legacy Real Estate Consulting LLC. With over 40 years of experience in residential development, property management, and landlord coaching, Kim has built a remarkable 0% eviction rate across her portfolio. She is passionate about educating small investors on effective property management, wealth building, and tenant relations. Kim is also a published author of multiple books, including 90-Day Gratitude Accountability Journal and Landlord Docs 30. Kim, how are you doing today?
I am awesome. I like to say absolutely blessed and amazing.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm feeling blessed too to have you here on a podcast. It's always amazing. You're a wealth of knowledge, and I'm very, very happy to talk about everything related to property management and about like anything in life. You know, that intro was a lot. So let's go straight into it. How do you get 0% eviction rate for 40 years?
Being intentional about handling your business,
Okay.
yeah, and really screening very well. We have an 8-step applicant screening process that we can go into later, but that's really the secret sauce.
Got it. Okay. And before everything, all this occurred, like the real estate things, like what was Kim before? Even real estate, like what were you doing before and how did you get into the real estate world?
Absolutely. The beginning of the chapter of the book of my life. I'm actually an artist of art. Yeah. Art major in high school. I had a short stint at Drexel University as an interior designer.
Oh, wow.
Yep, and stumbled into contract compliance, procurement, and then migrated into real estate development on the state level. So behind me, professionally, I have a 23-year career working with the New Jersey Redevelopment Authority in the state of New Jersey. I retired during COVID in
Okay.
2020 on Zoom as Chief Strategy Officer. So
Wow.
I started there, and my journey there was varied. So I started as a community organizer around working with local stakeholders in urban cities all across the state of New Jersey about how to revision and rebuild their commercial corridors. Then I got into underwriting those deals. And the last 13 years of my career, I led the team to build a training institute because all of those mayors and city councils and stakeholders, while they wanted to rebuild their communities, they really didn't understand the rudiments of redevelopment. So I built a regionally recognized and accredited training institute the last 13 years of my career there.
In residential development and for everyone just
Yes.
understanding everything related to real
How to
estate.
create a performer, understanding the capital stack, understanding redevelopment law, tax credits, any and everything pertaining to redevelopment and real estate was taught, and is still existing. So I'm proud of that.
Did you see a kind of empty void to fill because of that? Because, you know, now looking at city websites, they have all that information. But back then when you were building these training, I guess, modules is for like...
No, it's actually an institute.
Oh, institute. Okay.
It's an entity. Yeah.
Got it.
Mhm.
What was that empty void back then that you were trying to fill?
So it's what I see now also so the New Jersey Redevelopment Authority's focus legislatively is to offer financing, technical assistance to urban communities all across the state, right? So when we would go in and meet with a mayor or a developer or a city council member and talk about redevelopment, when we left, that mayor and council had to deal with many different issues, from contract issues, hiring, firing, budgets, conflicts. And so their focus was not always on how to get the redevelopment done, how to negotiate redeveloper contracts with developers, et cetera. So that void, it was a void of education and knowledge
Mm.
that the Redevelopment Training Institute did and still fills
Mm.
in education. And I say I saw it then and I see it now because our portfolio is in the city of Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
The last 2 weeks from this recording, I've been at city council meetings, the past 2 weeks,
Mm.
focused on landlord tenant laws, new bills, proposed legislation, and there is still a gap of knowledge,
Mm.
between tenants, council members, and landlords, around
Yes.
how to create balance, and the fact that landlording is a business, real estate is a business, is not a dirty word. Landlords are not villains and vicious and greedy people. So that education is very important,
Yeah.
ongoing.
Yeah, and we don't have to go into like deep politics, but I have heard, speaking about recent news, that one of the newer bills, I think it's with Rue Landau, I believe it was. I have here Bill 250045, which is the application fee cap,
Mhm.
and then the Bill 250044, the security deposit installments. Are you familiarized with that?
Very. I was in as a matter of fact, I gave testimony on those
Okay.
2 bills.
Wow. And
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on it on those?
Well, I I don't know how deep you wanna go here, but my thoughts, and I put this in writing to all of the committee members prior to that particular meeting where I gave testimony, to the point of, that application cap seemed very arbitrary. I provided documentation and data about industry standards around how much, the actual application fees cost
Right.
from a third party,
Right.
you know? So that's number 1, and then number 2, on the, multiple, payment options for the security deposit, I'm not gonna spill my feelings here, and hinge it to the fact that you never responded to my email.
Mm-hmm.
2 out of only 2 out of the 12, number 1, but you're gonna impose through this proposed bill additional administrative responsibilities on small landlords,
Exactly.
particular. But your staff is busy that you can't respond to me, but you want us to manage administratively partial payments for a security deposit. That takes time, effort, auditing, and accountability. And it's overreach,
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah, I think, I'm a landlord too, and I totally understand where you're coming from. I mean, we all do, like us landlords. And yes, I work for a big multifamily corporation firm, and they could cover those bases. I mean, they could have additional income from parking or storage, right? Amenities. Like there's things that could offset that, I guess, limited expense to other income. But then for majority of all the small mom and pop landlord, this is something like that we have everything to lose, because these are our properties. And for example, if you have a single family, once that tenant is gone, that's our cash flow for that particular, one single family unit. So if taking us like all the other expenses and all these legislative that's coming on board, we don't have any money to make at this point. And I think that that exact point is what deters landlords today, especially in Philadelphia, to go elsewhere to invest their money and build their long-term wealth, as opposed to, you know, buying it here or investing here.
Yeah, it's definitely a deterrent. It's definitely a deterrent. And on the rental application cap, proposed $20, it has changed. It's gone up to
50, yeah.
$50, right?
Hmm.
But initially, the initial recommendation was basically landlords take a loss. I'm proposing law for you to take a loss. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
So let's talk about the numbers, though. There are 50 million rentals in the United States.
sure.
Okay, 41% are owned by small landlords who own between 1 and 4 units.
Hmm.
41% are owned by small landlords who own between 1 and 4 units. On average, they only own 1 unit.
Hmm.
So, uh, you know, if you pass this law and just spread it over the entire market or industry, you're asking, to your point, someone with 1 unit or 2 units to take a loss just on the front end of the application fee. So, hopefully the voices were heard
Yeah.
and there's balance incorporated, which there has been some amendments to the proposed bill. So hopefully, you know,
Yeah.
it'll tease itself out.
So, how do you think in your 40 years of experience, especially with your systems and tenant approach, can serve as a model for new landlords adapting to these changes?
Zero evictions, it wasn't our intention when we started 45 years ago
Mhm.
managing my mother-in-law's multifamilies. As we honed our skills, became more educated in property management and the whole real estate development piece, what I say to my coaching clients and to audiences at large around how we attain that is number one, screening is the secret sauce, right?
Sure.
And money is not the top of the list for
Hmm.
us,
Hmm.
right? It's integrity and it's character.
Absolutely.
I'm looking for integrity. I'm looking for your soul. I'm looking for your character because I can find the money.
Mm.
I can determine if there's any false documentation out there because I turn into a private investigator.
Right.
I'm looking at everything, right? But we need someone in our assets, okay, that has integrity, that has character, that has credibility, so that if life happens
Hmm.
and something, awry goes with the finances, you'll you won't ghost us.
Mm.
You'll have a conversation. We can talk through it.
Yep.
Okay, and that's someone with integrity and character. So that's at the top of our list, and I think we've been really good in honing our skills to look in your soul.
That's
I need to see your soul, and basically that can happen by looking at your past, actions. Like historical information, historical behavior is an indication of future behavior.
mm,
That's not uncommon, right? So I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at your past behavior financially, your behavior, activities, etc. To basically I'm judging you.
right.
Like, you see those no judgment zones? Don't work here. Nope, I'm judging you because you are asking for the keys to our assets.
Hmm.
That is not a light ask.
Right.
Therefore, even going through the landmines of the 3-inch thick book of legislation that governs landlords in the city of Philadelphia, I'm still navigating that and doing what we need to do to make sure that we're getting someone who's solid, integral, and has great character and the cash flow to give our keys to.
Typically, as a landlord, it's a very straightforward process, and I think your process may be a little bit, I guess, stringent because obviously these are your properties, these are your assets. And correct me if I'm wrong. Typically, landlords, what they do, they post the units on Zillow, or I think some property management tools now they could broadcast like multiple different sites at one time,
Mhm.
and then the applications would come in, or maybe they would schedule a showing. They look around, they put the applications in, credit report, background checks, and then that's usually I guess, a determination for the landlord to say yes or no, depending on what story does it tell. I'm assuming that's not your case. You're asking more quick.
Yeah, we were asking more questions. We're digging deeper. As I mentioned, we have an 8-step screening process, and one of those steps is this was pre-COVID. With COVID, we've incorporated some digital,
Mm,
avenues. So we have a Zoom meeting,
mm,
right? Prior to a Zoom meeting, which is like the final step of the
mhm,
application process, we would meet with that applicant, one on one, because again, I need to read your body language.
mm.
I'm asking open end questions and I'm shutting my mouth. I'm watching you. I'm listening to how you answer. I'm comparing it to all the data that we've already, studied.
So this is after the application submission.
Yes,
Okay.
this is a short list. This is someone who is strongly being considered.
Mhm.
I need to look in your eyes and read your soul by asking open-ended questions and seeing how you respond. That's number one. And secondly, we would do, if it's geographically feasible, pre-COVID, visit where they currently live.
Interesting.
I need to see how you living because our model is acquisition, gut, rehab, rent, and hold, right?
Sure.
And if we're sinking, I don't know, 100 grand into a rehab that's pristine and you want the keys to our asset, I need to see how you're maintaining where you're currently living.
Mm, makes sense.
Okay. And so using the digital platform of Zoom, we're doing a live walkthrough. okay? Or I'm asking you to take 4 photographs of 4 different rooms in that property. And again, hopefully you're gonna be integral and you're not at your mama house or a friend's house that you don't live at. But then there's ways to confirm that too, because I turn into a private investigator.
Mhm.
And so we have actually denied an application based on that walkthrough.
Interesting.
Because if you're living like that over there and we're pristine, we have a standard.
Right.
And we use those 8 steps for every applicant, so there's no discrimination, but you just don't check that box
Mm.
in reference to how you keeping house.
Don't they have you ever received kickback that it's invasive of some sort?
It is stated on our application
Ah.
up front when you fill it out, when you sign it, and when you submit your application fee. There is no mystery.
Mm.
That part of this application process is stated on the application, could be an inspection or a walkthrough of where you currently live.
Got it.
So
So it's like set up.
self-cancel yourself. If you don't feel comfortable with that, then don't apply.
And what do you use for your, like, background checks and I guess yeah,
The third
credit
party.
yeah, the third party.
There are many out there, but we've used National Tenant Network
Okay.
for many years, yeah.
Yeah, because some people they deter from other, like, for example, I think Zillow, for example, right? You do they could they have one application that could just ship it out to multiple different landlords,
Mhm.
and sometimes they would call and they're like, yeah, I submitted my application. Oh, which application is this? Like the landlord going back to the tenant is like, oh yeah, which app? Because they just just shoot a shotgun approach and see whatever it sticks, and sometimes it's not the most updated background check, so that's why I asked.
Again, I say we, but this is a baton that I carry for our company. I turn into a private investigator, and even with I think it's been about 8 years now that we personally stopped showing our units. We have a showing agent, he's a realtor, very familiar with our market.
Mm-hmm.
He handles all the front end listings, screening calls and showings. He and we so I'm sorry for chuckling, but it is true. I feel it in my soul and my spirit that when you self-manage,
Mm-hmm.
you certainly have to have a system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Some investors say, I don't want to self-manage, I want a property manager. Fine. I believe that you have to manage your property manager.
Sure.
Okay. So as it relates to our showing agent, great guy, knows the market. We've had to train him.
Mm.
This is the expectations. Don't bring me back anything less than what I'm asking for. This is our application and this is our process.
Yeah.
So we've had to train him and we've had a good relationship. We've had some bumps in the road and we've smoothed those out and he knows what we need.
And what about, I guess, after the tenant screening process? Are you doing a walkthrough with them, or are you giving them the keys or codes in the lockbox or the codes in the front door?
Yes, so we take the baton once our realtor gives us a solid candidate
Mm-hmm.
and we do all of the screening
Mm.
and the approval or the denial. 9 times out of 10 is approval because he's given us everything that we need. And we then secure all the funds
Mm-hmm.
and we meet the new on-site property manager, that's what we call them,
Okay.
at the property to exchange the keys, do the walkthrough, and shake their hand and say, welcome to our home. You can stay as long as you like, as long as you pay in full on time and you take care of our asset.
Mm. And then ever since then, it's cash flow at that point.
It's cash flow and communication. If there's any maintenance issues, which we are, 24-hour turnaround or less.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's a lovely marriage.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we call it.
Yeah, you explain it like it's a marriage, and I love that because it is like a marriage, right? That you can't really, live together when you don't have that first date yet. So this tenant screening process is kind of that nurture into hopefully a long-term relationship.
You're right. And hearing you say that, I'm reminded I get pushback sometimes from the younger generation. I'll just say I won't name names, but they're like, well, dating doesn't happen like that anymore, the courting, the seeing if we have chemistry and all of that. And I say, okay, so maybe that's why there are less long-term marriages. I don't know, but maybe you need to do more courting or depends on what your objective is.
You can't just swipe right,
we're not swiping right with our assets. So
Absolutely.
we're using old school tools here, okay?
Yeah.
And I believe that has, awarded us, long and meaningful and mutually beneficial relationships with our on-site property managers, who, by the way, we give gifts to
Yeah.
once a year, you know?
Yeah. And I think the I guess the small or just newer investors don't want to do that work. They felt as though, I mean, I kid you not, I did a similar thing to what you just said with the tenant screening. I don't go in depth as in like Zoom and show them around, but I do have a phone call with them, and I asked them pretty, I would say, like, general question, and and I would have like a, what is it called, like a table while I'm asking the question, and then the table would be like red flags, yellow flags, and then green flags. It's like based on the responses of that question,
Mhm.
then that give me like a move forward,
Mhm.
or like, maybe it's a little iffy. Maybe I'll try different prospects to move forward with. But I do the same thing, and I did receive a kickback once before, and I think my biggest mistake, I didn't put in the application. I was just like, I'll ask them, and this was when I was still doing it as I go and just fine tuning my own processes.
Sure. Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and I remember having that conversation with my a friend of mine who is a property manager too. I asked him, it's like, hey, can you property manage me? Because it seems like you're great. I heard a lot of good things about you. He was like, dude, if you're under like 5 units, manage it yourself, because if you hire me, you don't have a set standard. So that's where okay, now I'm self-managing myself, and I'm figuring out, okay, this is the type, not necessarily the type, but these are the expectations of the tenants that I want in my properties.
Mhm.
And ever since then, it was like, okay, now once I have that process down,
Mhm.
okay, if I wanted to scale, I want to have more units. Obviously, I can't, like you have your showing agent. Like, there's no way I could show multiple different properties all at once in a single week, and at the same time looking at different tenants. So, like, you have to hire out, you have to delegate, and but you have to set that standards.
Absolutely.
So that's where I am now. It's like I'm self-managing, but
Mhm.
I'm also fine-tuning my processes, and I'm glad to hear, your, I guess, your views and your process, because it's been years on coming that you fine-tune these processes, and now you're sharing it to the other small-time investors.
Absolutely, and to that point, having sitting in the dirt
Mm,
yourself, right? And understanding the nuances, the process, and, how long things take and what should be considered and not, it gives you, the ability to, number one, know the process and to be able to create realistic expectations when you start delegating, right?
mm,
Like with, our showing agents, like, I know that the information is out there
mhm,
that I need. Don't tell me it's not available, because I've done it.
mhm,
I've done it from A to Z, So sitting in the soil, is the metaphor that I use for you. Learning the process, you will know that what you're asking for is possible,
mm.
and it should be, expectation that can be met.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are the other, I guess, the next step? You mentioned it was the eight-step process.
Mhm.
What are the other steps you mentioned about the Zoom call? Well, the applications first and the Zoom call. What are the other steps that come subsequently after that?
Okay, so we have the application, the background check, the landlord verification, the employment verification,
Gotcha. Yep.
social media combing. We go on various search engines.
Mm,
Okay, not just Google, not just Chrome. We're on all search engines. We're doing the Zoom call, and I think I'm up to 7. And then I think it's the personal interview, might be 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Got it. Yeah, it's very, very,
yeah,
very straightforward. It's
yeah.
just based on documentations, and usually you have all that in the applications anyway.
Usually,
Yeah.
yeah. I think I forgot the pay stubs and the bank statements
Have you ever denied someone because of their social media?
because of their social media. I would say no.
Okay.
However, we
Yep.
we we did deny some young applicants who did not want to share their financials with us. They had trust funds, okay,
Oh.
and I said, I'm happy for you. However, I need to see the documentation.
Mm,
And they were not willing to provide the documentation. Like, I'm supposed to just go off of your word that you have a trust fund and, you're moving from this, luxury high rise and you've got the money. It doesn't work that way.
Gotcha.
We don't operate that way. And I have gotten some pushback on social media in particular,
Mhm,
sharing those 8 steps of screening a rental applicant.
mhm.
And I think I went through, like, each step, and, I was on the financials requiring, the pay stubs and the bank statements, and I got a, comment, "Well, I wouldn't want a landlord who requires to see my bank statements." And my response was very simple, "You're not my tenant."
Right.
I don't know
What's
what
the
lender
here? Yeah.
I don't know what lender out there that you can go to say, "You cannot have my bank statements or my pay stubs."
Mhm,
And I see landlording, like, mitigating your risk
mhm,
in the same way that lenders do. I did underwriting,
mhm.
okay, for large
Developers.
developers,
Yeah.
like, we need to underwrite the deal here,
Yeah.
and I believe I was blessed in that 23-year career at the state level doing redevelopment at a very macro level to then filter it down to the micro of our
Mm,
business and incorporate, some of those techniques and perspectives and tools
yeah.
and systems like underwriting an application. Like, you got to show me where the money's coming from.
Have you done developments, like, on your own? As in, like, ground up developments based on what you have done in the, I guess, in the city and officials?
No ground up.
Mm,
Definitely, as I mentioned earlier, our model is acquisition, full gut
full gut.
rehab and rent and hold. So we've gutted buildings down to the studs,
Mhm.
ripped off fronts of buildings, extended rears of buildings, but not ground up. The one ground up construction experience that we do have is our primary home.
Okay.
Yeah, we so and I have a little thick black journal
Oh, really?
on that project. Yeah, I'm very methodical and systematic and compartmentalized as a strategist. So I retired as chief strategy officer is the way my mind works
Mhm.
in regards to whatever I'm working on. So that ground up construction of our primary home back in the 90s was a good learning tool
Mhm.
for us to then delve into the full gut rehab stuff.
Got it. And then us as you and your husband, correct? That
Yes.
is how do you guys work together?
Pray for me. No, for it's really been a blessing in that I mentioned earlier, I'm an artist.
Mhm.
My groundwork is at artist. So we're both artists.
Mhm.
45 years ago, we met on the job. We were both artists. And we just celebrated, let me see, where are we? This year will be 41 years of marriage. Yeah, we met 45 years ago, 41 years of marriage. And I believe that I believe in divine intervention.
Mhm.
As our relationship, matured, had children, worked our respective careers, and then got into the real estate piece. Like, we're really a great balance for each other.
Mhm.
I will not say that we have not had rubs, in relationship to even the business side
Yeah.
of how we do it. But it's been good. We are, as I say right now, I have friends who know this term. We are walking in our victory garden
That's
right
awesome.
now. So over the last 4 decades, we planted seeds of building assets,
Mhm.
specifically in real estate. We've nurtured those seeds, we watered them, we weeded them,
Mhm.
and we're now really walking in our victory garden.
And for people who are, I guess, getting started, especially in real or not even real estate, just business in general as a couple, do you have any recommendations, any advice for them to starting out? Is it like separate business from personal or keep them together? Don't talk to them at certain situations. What are any advice?
Pillow talk can be very interesting. I'll start there, work backwards. But no, so think about this. When I talk to young people,
Mhm.
and I love talking to young people, I'm in high schools, I'm talking to young people. I met you, right? Talking to a group of young folks. It's just very important to have communication,
Mm,
right? Have communication and understand that. And I ask this question when I go into classrooms and settings like, who in here runs a company? Who is a business? Nobody raised their hands. I said, everybody should. You are you incorporated. So when you ask, do you separate the personal from the business? Your personal household is a business,
mm,
if you look at it that way,
yep.
right? And in looking at it that way, back in 1987, that's how we were able to acquire our first home, which we still own today.
That's awesome.
is because we drew a line down the center of the page, income, expenses.
Mm-hmm.
That's your personal, right?
Yeah.
And we were able to cut our expenses and increase our savings to, save for a down payment for our home
Mm-hmm.
that we still own today as an asset, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so right now, because we have business, we have 2 companies, and then we have our personal. Over the years, we've kind of flip-flop. Like, my husband handles all the personal finances, and I handle all of the business finances.
Interesting.
And, everything kinda overlaps as far as conversation goes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like one, big empire with spokes in the wheel. I like to use that metaphor as well. It's like spokes in the wheel, but it all goes to that hub,
Right.
yeah, in the center.
And in terms of responsibilities, is that it seems like you guys are both, you mentioned both of you guys are artists. It seems like you guys are, financially intellectual too, talking about personal budgets and business budgets. Do you guys separate responsibility? Like it seems like you guys have the same kind of mindset and just knowledge. Now, how do you guys separate responsibilities? Is that something you guys talk ahead of time, or is that like, oh, I'm good at this, or you're good at that?
It's really changed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at one point, I handled our personal finances,
Mm-hmm.
and he handled the business, and as time went on, we may have a conversation. It's like, "Okay, listen, why don't you handle the business stuff, and I'll do the personal."
Yep.
Seriously, it was just that kinda casual. I'm smiling because because, as you grow companies,
Right.
money can be tight.
Mhm.
Right? And you're trying to make ends meet. So we probably switched at some point along one of those decades when the business was really kind of, struggling. And he was like, listen, you handle the business, I'll handle the personal. So it really, it was,
It just depends on the seasons,
yeah, it
basically.
depends on the season. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
So now you're doing a full-time, I guess, real estate consultants, and you're out there and speaking multiple events. Beforehand, you were at 9 to 5. What was that transition looks like? What made you kind of jump ship from that 9 to 5, which you have been doing for quite a while and are pretty good at it to the point where you are a chief strategist officer,
Mhm.
and transition out of that into this consulting thing that you are doing now?
So it's interesting you ask that because, again, I believe in divine intervention. I believe being obedient to the universe.
Mhm.
I believe in, really having, intrinsic time, to think about where you are in life, where you want to be, what you need to do to get there, being accountable to what your goals are, holding yourself accountable, calling yourself out, putting yourself on punishment,
Mm,
all those things, right? And so your question for me is really what was your why? Why did you? So I have to go back in the chapters to really kind of lay the groundwork as to why my husband and I started investing in real estate.
mm.
And it was because we had 3 children and, we were thinking ahead
Sure.
because we're visionaries, right? We can see what doesn't exist and build what needs to happen. We pondered with if we got to retirement age, whatever that was, what happens if Social Security is not there, right?
Mm.
We had children always encouraging them to seek higher education, like college. How are we going to pay for it?
Mm. Mm.
Right? And my mother-in-law, which is how we got into real estate, the late Estella Babb, I call her our family financial revolutionary. Like, she just innately was investing in real estate already when I met my husband 45 years ago. And when I met him, I started helping him manage his mom's rental properties. But she was investing on a seamstress salary here in Philadelphia. She worked in the sewing factories here. Now, rumor, almost gossip, was that she also gambled. I don't know, but she
It's a side hustle.
is
It's
a
a side
side
hustle.
hustle, right? But she would buy real estate, and that was her thing while she was working. And it took her 10 years after we got married to convince us to invest in rental properties. Because my husband was managing her stuff, so we saw the business, but we were partying, creating like mounds of commercial, debt. We weren't focused on building assets, even though we had purchased our first home. And like I said, it took her a decade. I call it a motherly nudge to like nudge us into buying that first investment property. And she made us a deal,
Mm.
which was revealing that she had squirreled away $14,000 for my husband's inheritance, unbeknownst to him. and that she had come across a couple properties, and one was $14,000, that she would give it to us to buy this investment property. So we took her up on it, and that was our foray into investing. And then the bigger light bulbs went off with what if
Mm,
Social Security is not there? How were we going to pay for education? And we began to educate ourselves on creating our own economic, environment, coupled again with me being laid off twice in my career,
mm,
my husband being laid off once, that not being a great feeling,
sure.
and answering the question, how can we create our own revenue stream?
Mhm.
And so we got on the boogie board of buying investment properties. And like I said, planting those seeds, making the sacrifices. You got to make financial sacrifices. You cannot be life creeping,
Yeah.
buying every daggone thing, going everywhere. You got to make sacrifices, and we did that over the decades, and began to go to sheriff sales, foreclosures, and acquiring assets, and methodically leveraging. Leveraging is an important tool to use for anyone who's listening or watching.
Mm,
Learn how to leverage. We leveraged our early assets to pull out resources, we call it our war chest, to then acquire other assets and methodically, rehab those and get them online. And interestingly enough, we were doing burrs before burr was
they were there before Brandon Turner and Bigger
yeah,
Pockets made it mainstream.
yeah. We were doing burrs before burrs
It was
was
called landlording.
exactly. It was called leveraging. It was called refinancing, home equity lines.
Sure.
And so we were doing all that while we were educating ourselves in how to do it, and never used any hard money, just our 9 to 5s,
Slow growth.
slow growth, slow growth. And so, after a while, we saw, the garden growing. For me personally, when I severed from my 9 to 5 was in 2018, I suffered a concussion. It was a fluke fall on a lunch in Trenton, New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
And I never knew what a concussion was until I experienced it.
Mm,
4 months of, rehab and recovery gave me time during those 18 hours a day that I was sleeping, allow my brain to rebuild. Again, divine intervention. I just saw the handwriting on the wall that I had, you know, enough time on my job. We had built our real estate portfolio. And if anybody knows about government, careers, the milestone is 25 years. Like, get to the 25 years, you got the pension, you got the medical.
yep.
And again, I mentioned earlier, I fired my 9 to 5 during COVID 2020
Mm.
at 60 with 23 years in on Zoom with the CEO.
We got 2 more years.
I said, I reclaim my time. I'm out,
Mm,
because we had built our own personal revenue stream. Yet I could live my best life for the rest of my life, having had this experience of a life threatening encounter, and really valuing life more than those 2 years.
yeah. I mean, you value the time that you have. And the thing is too, you mentioned all the properties and all the investment that you have gained during that 23 years, even more, right?
Hmm.
You have this runway, you have this what I like to call like the entrepreneurial runway of, yes, this all my expenses can be covered from my investments, so that
Hmm.
I'm technically financially free.
Yeah.
Now it just depends on, do I want to dedicate more time into this, or do I want to dedicate to my time into like the W-2? I think that's a determination for some people to make. Like, how much am I making for my side hustle? And that typically that side hustle turned into like the main hustle.
It
It
did.
seems like that's what happens now. Well, you have to invest with properties, and then now you're doing the consulting. You're doing the things that you love. You're helping other people, compared to, I don't know how. I mean, you're still helping people in your 9 to 5, but pretty sure you're creating a deeper impact on here too.
I am. And what I say to that point, I'm glad you said that. I say that I've gone from my career to my calling.
Mm,
I think for the fourth time, I'll mention divine intervention. I've had the ability to stand on my heels in a bow face, and look at my life and my career and see how every chapter has prepared me for the next.
mm,
Is really deep. And talking about my consulting, which is really training and coaching and educating, the last 13 years of my career set me up for what I'm doing right now with Legacy Real Estate Consulting.
That's why it's called legacy.
Exactly. Everything I did in those 13 years of leading the team of building the Redevelopment Training Institute has prepared me for what I'm doing with Legacy right now. When I exhibit at real estate events and at shows, people see my table, they're like, wow, like this is really wonderful. I said, I've been doing it for somebody else for 35 years. So it's really been a blessing that I've been able to transfer that experience and what I did for other companies and corporations for myself.
And speaking of transferring those experience, you mentioned that you enjoy, talking to the younger investors too, the younger crowd. You've been through high schools and assuming college too.
Mhm.
Um, what are the kickbacks? What are the struggles that you see in them that they can't, push forward into investing in real estate or businesses or entrepreneurship?
What I'll say is, social media and technology has its benefits.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think it also creates a challenge with the younger generation of comparison, just having the information overload, the fire hose of images and ideas and lifestyles and wanting to compare themselves with that and why don't I can't have that and not understanding that things take time.
Mm-hmm.
I've used this term microwave, society, microwave generation, like everything right now
Instant.
instant, and it just doesn't happen that way. Unfortunately, for your reality, it doesn't happen that way. So I need you to unwind it and sit in the soil. Like understand that knowledge is so important in strategy, right? Educating yourself about the game. We're not playing checkers here. Life is a chess game, and it's all about how one move impacts the next two or three. So I encourage young people to research, read, and learn 3 times more than they speak.
Mm,
Read, research, and learn 3 times more than you speak. We have to ingest. We are what we eat physically, spiritually, intellectually, all of those things. So we have to ingest so that we can process it, understand it, and massage it into what makes sense to us
mm,
to then put out, implement, grow, set goals, and hold ourselves accountable as to are we doing what we say we want to do?
yeah.
And, there's so many ideas and information out here. What's our vision? What are our goals? What do we want to do? And then create that yardstick of realistic measurement and set those goals, which is why I wrote the journal, the real estate gratitude journal, because I mean, so many investors, "Oh, I want to invest in real estate. I want to, yeah, okay. So what are you doing?
Mm,
What are you doing? I created the 90-day daily journal. Specifically, every day you got to ask yourself the question, what am I learning in real estate? Who do I need to connect with in real estate? Who do I need to follow up with in real estate? What am I doing? Like constantly,
mhm.
every day. And then marry that to gratitude, I believe, character, integrity, gratitude, generosity, all those things meld together into who we are. But we got to hold ourselves accountable
Yeah.
and allow other people to hold us accountable. You said you were going to do that. Now, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because if we can't take external accountability and we can't hold ourselves accountable, then what the heck are we doing?
Yeah. Absolutely.
We're like a kite just flying and just moving around based on what we see, on the socials and, whatever source that we're using to ingest.
That is a really good point because the social media is a huge aspect of it. Because nowadays, we heard the terms all the time, right? You are the 5 people that you surround yourself with. You're the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. But I could say the same thing. It's like you're the sum of the contents, the 5, I guess, closest content that you're consuming on a daily basis. If you're
Mhm.
watching, whatever's going on in the news or I don't know, like Donald Trump or something like
Mhm.
that's consumed your mind. You're
Mhm.
and all these social media engines, right? And tools and companies, they all want one thing, which is your awareness. And as soon as they take that awareness or attention away, you're golden. Like it's literally like, I work in real estate and I do marketing as well,
Mhm.
right? Facebook ads or Instagram or TikTok ads. And I'm a producer too, right?
Mhm.
I'm creating this podcast. Like what I'm asking myself constantly, like how can I build this brand? And what that actually means, like how can I get more attention? So it's not just the company itself, but it's also like the people who are sharing these knowledge and some knowledge too. And young people can attune to this. Some knowledge are just like salesy. Like
Yeah.
there's no that it's just all fluff. So given all that, given all the social media that's going on right now, so much information, how do young people focus on the right thing and
Mhm.
just go all in?
Mhm. So I pray every day. No, seriously, as a Muslim, I pray 5 times a day, right? And I have children, I have grandchildren, there's a community that, I really love and appreciate. And one of my prayers is for them is focus, consistency, resilience, resourcefulness,
Hmm.
and commitment, right? And to your comments, we are so distracted with all that's coming at us. And, you know, focus is a practice.
Sure.
Focus takes discipline. So I pray for focus every day because it's going to take focus to shut all that off,
Absolutely.
identify what you want to focus on to get you to the chessboard position that you want to be on,
Hmm.
turn all that off, focus intentionally and consistently, and hold yourself accountable. And that takes a lot
Yeah.
in the world that we live in. And we young people, we need to realize that we live in a world of distractions, but that we are in control. We are in control of this, self.
Right.
And we can shut it off, we can close our eyes, and we can design our daily day to say, okay, I believe in time management and all that. 15 minutes in the morning, I'm not going to touch my phone. I have control. I don't have to touch it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Yeah.
Like, I can do this. I am approaching a 60-day sugar-free diet.
That's awesome.
My goal is 100-day, right? But I'm approaching 60, and I've had to say to myself, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to give any promotion to any stores, drinks that you know what I'm saying? So it takes self-discipline. And if we don't have self-discipline, then how can we have, productive, meaningful relationships, life, hold other people accountable if we're not self-disciplined?
Yeah, that's a really good point because if you look at the wealth, not even wealth, like successful people, right? But success is relative. But
Mhm,
people who have multiple income sources
mhm,
or they're wealthy with their family, socially, and
mhm,
just life in general, you see like the small tidbit of habits that they're doing on a daily basis that is boring, that is not fun at all, but at the same time, it leads into other kind of actions and
mhm,
mindset that comes after it. And not only that, but it's the people that they surround themselves with. I've seen my personal growth, right? When I was starting out in real estate, I was roughly about 18 years old, and I was working at a bar. At the time, I was legit studying for my real estate salesperson's license, and I had a book. Like nobody else in a bar would have a book in, in especially in a bar. Like it's a social, but the people that are in that bar, I mean, they're nice people, but
mhm,
they get drunk consistently. They have
mhm,
something that is a void that they're trying to fill using this external factors like alcohol and hanging out late at nights. And I was hanging out late at nights, but I was working. And that trends, and I was reading consistently. I was doing real estate stuff, and sometimes I have the fear of missing out, FOMO, of like all my friends were going to like a certain party or hang out with a certain group of friends, and I'm like, I'm tired, and I'm studying and I'm doing these fix and flips too during college, and ever since then, I mean, those consistent habits of like me being okay with that delayed gratification
mhm,
habit of like, okay, I don't have to do that now. And I'm listening here, I'm like on Coursera or Skillshare or something like that, like learning how to be more productive or learning real estate stuff on YouTube. And I still do that to this day. Like I kid you not, if I'm not with like a person inside my car, it would just be a podcast. and it'd be something that is I like, or maybe an audiobook, and that habit just continued to grow in myself, that it's just like a second nature to me. It's not like something I want to put at as my goals to listen 30 minutes of a podcast because I'm already doing that. And now I'm searching for a bigger goal, and that it just keeps growing and growing and growing.
Yeah, I agree with all that. It's intentionality.
Hmm.
It's intentionality, and going back to my encouragement of, anybody, but it's particularly young people to learn, read, and research 3 times more than you speak. As you were speaking, I was reminded of, the 7 habits of, highly
Highly effective
effective
people.
people, of highly effective teenagers. Like, they've got, all these different categories of that message, but the point is to constantly ingest, right?
Hmm.
And I'm also reminded of Dr. Eric Thomas, one of the
He's a
motivation speakers.
motivation,
Right, right,
yeah.
right.
He's awesome.
And he talks about when you are so focused, right, on what it is that you want to attain. If you get that call, or you decide not to be in a relationship, like, answer the phone and say, and it's January, check back with me in June. I'm not available right now, to stay focused on your goals. And the other piece is when I work for state government, I travel, like I said, 72 urban cities across the state of New Jersey. I spend a lot of time in my car, and I would call it, the mobile university. Seriously,
Yeah.
I would listen to podcasts and audiobooks, all kinds of real estate training, content, and then also driving for dollars, like, being out on the street, just driving neighborhoods, looking at buildings. So we need to be intentional about what our desires are and hold ourselves accountable for doing what needs to be done to get to those goals.
Got it. The accountability piece, how are you portraying that to people that you consult? Because that's a huge one, and the reason why I'm saying that is because I just started. I think masterminds are like the new university, in my
Mhm.
opinion,
Mhm.
because in universities, some people want to be there, but I think most people don't want to be there because sometimes it's forced on you. Like you have to choose a major, and sometimes you don't want to do that certain major. And once you graduate, you're like, I don't want to do this job anymore. But in my opinion, in today's generations, masterminds are the way to go because you're surrounded yourself with people who wants it. And obviously, there's a certain factor that, to get in. Maybe it's monetary, or maybe you have to do a certain amount of units if you're in real estate mastermind. But the most important thing, in my opinion, in these masterminds is the accountability aspect, because you start seeing it's like social media, right? Like people see you do stuff and then they want to follow you.
Mhm.
But in this instance, depending on what mastermind you're in, they're doing certain something, and you want to be there with them, or you could partner up, you could help out with each other, providing valuable information to each other, and grow and share resources. And I think that's the most important thing. You mentioned in your 90-day gratitudes, about the accountability piece.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on it, and how are you implementing that with your clients?
Number 1, success leaves clues. Tony Robbins says that.
Mm.
I listen to a lot of stuff, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, like, and success leaves clues. So, if we want to, attain success, however you define it, because it's not all monetary. Like,
Mhm.
I'm on 100 days sugar free, trying to get healthy
That's
or trying to maintain health. You know what I'm saying? But the point is, like, we have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
mm,
Right? We have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, which is the sacrifice of spending and allocating our time doing master classes, reading, researching, networking, talking to people, studying. It's just a part of the work that has to be done if you want what you say you want.
mm,
If you want what you say, mm, it's going to come out right. If you want what you say you want, then you got to sacrifice.
absolutely.
Warren Buffett was asked the question, what would you say to, a young entrepreneur? His answer was, figure out what you're going to sacrifice. Sacrifice time with your family, sacrifice money, sacrifice what are you willing to give up?
Mm,
Stop thinking that you can still be life creeping and enjoying everything and not have to sacrifice something
yeah,
to obtain what it is that you say you want.
yeah.
Right now, I'm smiling because my husband and I are empty nesters, and many times, we will walk, around the house past each other and say, we are so damn blessed. We are so blessed, right?
Yeah.
And I'm reflecting on when we were raising our children, working our 9 to 5s, planting the seeds of assets, and we couldn't afford, like, 4-star hotels. We would take our kids to Washington DC, on, a trip to the, to where the White House was, and we had to stay like 10, 15 miles outside the city at an 8-ball motel because that's what we could afford,
Right.
right? And now when we travel around the world, I want to stay in luxury suites. And my husband is like, "Well, we're really not going to be there." I'm like, "I don't give a damn." Because
Reap the fruit of your labor.
exactly. We're walking in our victory garden right now. So the point is, back then we had to sacrifice. And I say to young people, figure out what you're willing to sacrifice to get where you want to be, and understanding that it's not going to be forever, but you got to be intentional about it, and you got to put in the work. And if you study success, whatever it is, you know, economic success, health success, there are people that are striving for health, and they are sacrificing a lot of time to be in the gym, or going to organic supermarket, like whatever it is that you spend more money to
Hmm.
be more. So what is it that you're willing to give up?
Yeah. One of my previous podcast guests, Layman, I asked him about like, yeah, what do you think about like the organic food more expensive than your McDonald's, right? Or fast food chain? He was like, his answer was amazing. He was like, pay now or pay later.
Absolutely.
And I was like, oh, that's deep, man.
At this chapter in my life, I feel like I'm in the fourth quarter of life, which is also a part of my motivation of pouring out as much as I can. I follow a mindset of learn, earn, and return, right? We are encouraged and we should be committed to learning,
Hmm.
and we typically earn based on our level of knowledge and what value we bring. And where I am now is returning what I have learned and earned very well from pouring that back into whatever community that will receive me.
Is there anything that you want to change in your younger self, knowing what you know now?
Buy more real estate earlier. My husband and I talk about that. Kid cry over spilt milk. His mom, the motherly nudge for years,
Mm.
was encouraging us to buy and invest more in the market that we are, which is where my husband grew up, Graduate Hospital in the city of Philadelphia,
Oof.
and
Now
Point Breeze, right? I mean,
houses are like 700,000 now.
his mom was buying houses for $1
Oh my God.
in Graduate Hospital. And she was encouraging us, because a lot of people knew her in the neighborhood. They knew Mrs. Stell bought houses when family members died. Family members didn't want to pay the taxes or they're about to lose it. They would come to her. She would buy it. $500, $2,000. We were so distracted, partying and raising a family and building so much, commercial debt at that time that we just couldn't see it. But we will not, cry over spilt milk. We got what we got.
Absolutely.
And we woke up when it was the right time and have a very small but mighty and robust portfolio in the right market because we bought at the right time, at the right price, at the right location.
Speaking on that, in today's market, right, shifting, because that was back then. Obviously, people who are investing now, they always say, I should have invested more back then, or I shouldn't have sold my house then because now it's worth 10x, for example.
Mhm.
In today's market, especially for younger investors or newer investors who want to starting out, interest rates are still high, right? I mean, 7% roughly now as we are speaking, because I saw one of a term sheet on a house that is between, I don't know, like 200 to 300,000. It doesn't pencils for cash flow purposes. What advice would you give a newer investors who wants to invest in real estate that housing prices are still high, interest rates are still high, rents are stagnant, right? Because we have a lot of units that are delivered from this massive multifamily developers because they want to take advantage of the 2021 tax abatement. And then now all those buildings are built and needs to be filled. And there were a lot of cranes 2, 3 years ago. Now the cranes are all gone, and you see these big buildings. And personally, I think they're mostly vacant, and they're trying to fill those out. But that also affects the market of the small investors too, because as a tenant, right, it's great. Do I want to live here for X amount of dollars per month with this amenities, or do I want to live in a triplex or a duplex with shared space? Um, what advice would you give new investors now that are diving into it, given the economic issue, not issues, but the economics of what we have?
Realities.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Figure it, try to do the homework, do the research, and figure out your point of entry, right? I try to encourage any young investor to house hack, right? That term existed before their pockets saying something. But you asked the question earlier, like, if I knew then what I know now, I said real estate. But my answer also is we would not have brought a single family property for our first investment. We
Sure.
would have brought a multifamily.
Mm.
And that's what I encourage young people, young investors to do. Buy a multifamily, duplex, triplex, if you can get a quad, like buy a multifamily, live in one unit, rent out the other two, three, okay? That is your foundation. That's your leverage point,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And it's a wonderful springboard to get into real estate. Conversely, for a single unit that may not pencil out based on all that you've just said, go into a lower price point market.
Mm.
Okay, even if it's out of Philadelphia, if it's in the county, if it's somewhere else where you can get in low, you can study the demographics, the psychographics, all of that in that market and see a possibility, then strategically, because we're talking chess here, make that move instead of what's comfortable for you that might be around a corner where the houses are going for $250,000. That's not your market based on your
So
pockets.
expensive. But
Okay. But that's not the end of the world. They're not building more land. Okay. And there are, other neighborhoods and other markets where you can get in. So look at those markets. And also we have during our journey leveraged an asset. Okay, and it wasn't making money, okay?
so you took out like a HELOC on a property that
Exactly.
wasn't cash flowing.
It was cash flowing,
Okay.
but we did a HELOC, a
Mm-hmm.
line of credit. We only do lines of credit, right? There's a reason for that, do the research. And when we pulled the equity out to invest in other assets, that asset wasn't making money
Got it.
when we pulled it out.
Got it.
It was underwater.
Mm-hmm.
But we knew the market, which is Graduate Hospital. Give it 3, 5, 10 years. It's going to be back in the black again. And it was. So sometimes you got to make decisions and moves depending on where you are in your process with an asset where it's not making money.
Mm-hmm.
But you can forecast based on what you think was going to happen in the market. And there's going to be an upswing where eventually that asset will be cash flowing.
Got it. So look at it from not just 1 year perspective, but 5 years, 10 years,
Exactly.
and look at the long term and see how that fits into your long term vision too, because that is
Exactly.
just as important.
Everything is not right now.
Mm.
Everything is not right now. And I'll go back to your comment. And I know, you know, we're in a different day and time,
Mm-hmm.
but you mentioned, the interest rate being 7%. So rewind, we bought our first property in 1986. Guess how much the interest rate was? First time home buyer,
Is it 12%?
13. Now our salaries were different, the
Right.
market was
Yeah.
different, but it was 13%.
Yep.
So I know salaries are different now.
Mm-hmm.
Interest rate is at 7 or whatever it is, but my suggestion is to get in.
Mm.
Get in, okay, and if the rate goes down, enough points, you can do a refi. We had higher interest rate mortgages during our journey when it was that near close to free money, okay? I think we're like 80% debt free on our portfolio.
Wow.
Right?
That's awesome.
And those two mortgages that we still have are like at 4%.
Mm.
So imagine we were at 13 or even 8 or 9 and then refinancing down to 4%. That's a hell of a savings.
Yeah. You put out a great point, because when I'm looking at deals and underwriting deals, I mean, 7-8% is expensive, mainly because we're comparing that to what we saw. Because I started in real estate 2018, right? It was between like 3, 4, maybe 5% at
Reams.
exactly. So we were comparing to that cycle, and we're looking at now. It's like, oh my God, it just doubled, so it doesn't underwrite pretty well. But real estate is a cycle. It's a cyclical movement here. And if it makes sense now and later on it's lowered, or when you refi to that, I don't know, hopefully it's 3, 4, 5%
Mm-hmm.
lower, you're golden. Like you're making bank. And I think investing in that and making sure that the numbers make sense now, that it makes it like a super great deal down the line, I think that's where you win. And if you look at kind of the average of I think the past 40 or 50 years, don't quote me on that, the
Mm-hmm.
average interest rates are about 7%, because you
Mm-hmm.
have those higher interest rates in the 1980s, right? And
Yeah.
the 13% that you mentioned, and then you average those out with the 3% that's happening between, I guess, 2018 to 2021, maybe. Like those just average out over the years.
I'm smiling because when they were creating like these boutique mortgages, like, it was crazy. Anybody could get a mortgage.
It was so weird because my dad, when he came here, he bought a house for I think like 60 grand. And then he put 10% down. And then he told me like the next year, and this was before the 2008 crisis. I think he
Mm-hmm.
bought this like 2005. And he told me like, yeah, I took out a HELOC of 20%. And I'm like, okay, you put down 10%, and then it's like 60,000. But then you take it, it's like, you're underwater. But then I realized that like back then, as long as you breathe and have a credit score, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
Those mortgage-backed securities issues. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, that's insane.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, economics and finance is an interesting subject to study. And going back again to, what I would encourage, young investors and young people to do. You mentioned when you were working at a bar, you were reading a book. Like, I'm constantly reading. At the fourth quarter of my life, I am an avid reader. I'm reading at least 4 or 5 books simultaneously. I have a backpack right next to me. There's a book in my backpack.
What are you
So,
reading now?
Love and Whiskey.
Love and Whiskey.
Yeah, it's about the story about Jack Daniel's
Oh,
distillery.
oh yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep, yep, and, the whole story about how it was actually, a black slave that was his master distillery that was being discovered and shared in this book. Yeah.
Wow.
So it wasn't Jack Daniel's. He had a great distiller that taught him everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and those 2 families are still doing business. So that's what the book is about. I just started it.
Yeah, most biography, I mean, if you read like the successful companies, there's always that like mentor that helped them out. And I think that's really important. That's why you started the Legacy Consult, because people sees you as a mentor. I see you as a mentor, as someone who is have that much experience. Like definitely you made a lot of mistakes along the way,
Mhm.
and the knowledge that you provided are those experiences that you fine tune your systems, because you don't want to make those same mistakes. And obviously other people don't. And we just share knowledge and resources.
Absolutely. And as Tony Robbins says, success leaves clues. So I want to be that example
Hmm.
that it is possible. Unfortunately, there are so many investors and landlords out here that are discouraged
Hmm.
and distracted and just frustrated with lost revenue and, headache tenants and properties that, have had to foreclose or they've sold because of the headache of the experience. And I just want to pour into them, our philosophies, our ideology, our tools and techniques, and also hold them accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Hold them accountable, yeah, 'cause I listen sometimes and, they will tell on themselves, about, the faults and the red flags that they just let go by, and they've then found themselves in these awkward situations.
Absolutely. So a couple of more questions here. What's one key takeaway that you want? I know you mentioned a lot. Every small investors or landlording listening today to remember.
Again, this is a chess game. Real estate is a chess game. It's not checkers. It's not to be taken lightly. And to be, intentional about what you're ingesting, who you're following, and just do your homework. Like,
Hmm.
you got to sit in the soil. It's not you. I met a young person who is 22 or 23 and said she wanted to be a millionaire by 30. I was like, so, like, let's be realistic. And it's okay to say that.
Sure.
What is your strategy?
Yeah. What are the steps?
What are the steps? What's your timeline? What are you holding yourself accountable on accomplishing in order to meet that timeline and
Mm,
that financial goal? So, just the tools, just ingest as much as possible, spend quiet time and hold yourself accountable, put yourself on punishment if you need to, and understand it's going to take some time, even though the world says is a microwave environment. It's not really, and invest in you.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels so weird, right? And I was talking to someone about this before. In college, when you were in college, it feels so slow. But then as soon as you get out of college, everything just fast. Like you get into like a corporate job, right? Or a job that is post college. And then you just have a, I guess, like redundant, like everything's the same, right? You do chores, you work, you do maybe one or two hobbies, you go to sleep, and then like 5 years just pass down the drain. And you're like, wow, what just happened? Because when you're in college, it's like it's slow. Like you have to study, maybe you have some extracurricular activities, you hang out with friends, but then afterwards it's just go, 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 go to the point where like 5 years just flew by, and then 5 years later you may have kids, and and it's
It's
like
called adulting. Adulting. And let me also just share, full disclosure, I am a college dropout, right?
Mm,
As was Steve Jobs, as was, Maya Angelou, all of these phenomenal people. And I like to also be an example of how I never let, schooling get in the way of my education.
mhm,
I never let schooling, the schoolhouse, get in the way of my education.
yep,
And some of us are natural learners, we discover our zone of genius. Our zone of genius is recognized by others. And that was, the benefit of my life journey. Directors and companies saw my zone of genius, even without a college degree. And I was able to excel and exemplify and add value to organizations and companies and be compensated for that, to retire with no college degree, two people removed from the governor of the state of New Jersey, building training institutes and leading teams without a college degree,
mm,
I think is an example that, you know, education is crucial,
absolutely,
but you can attain education from many different troughs. So do not let that ever hold you back.
yep,
If Steve Jobs and Maya Angelou are any example, I mean Maya Angelou spoke 6 languages and taught PhD students. So
mm.
let's be, open to various ways of ingesting information.
And don't stop after college. I mean, you mentioned education, right? College is just one platform. There's so much other free resources out there. YouTube University, you hear that all the time. I mean, yeah, YouTube Premium is cost, but then you could also, watch it with ads. And same thing with, there's a lot of free resources with a EDU account. Like even with an EDU account, it's not just for your university. I've seen other courses that they see an EDU account, you get it for free as like a student or teacher.
If you read one book on a topic for 52 weeks out of the year, you're an expert.
Mm,
And if you can't sell that knowledge to somebody or somewhere after reading a book for 52 weeks out of the year, then, work on your sales skills. But, knowledge can come in so many different ways.
I read in a forum that like in reading, it goes a long way than just knowledge. It's like you're able to teach because the way that you're reading it, or the way the book is written and the way that you read, you can eloquently talk about that or teach it. And that's also another way to learn. You don't just learn from reading, you learn by also doing, you're also learning by teaching other people. And I think that's what you do now too.
I'm smiling because I heard this twice in like the recent weeks
Oh, really?
that could you talk about reading a book, I was born in the 1900s. And young people see that as strange. Like you're born in the 1900s because young people born in 2000s, and so there are methods of ingesting like reading a physical book
Hmm.
that to some people is a little more foreign than audiobooks or whatnot.
That is true. Just flipping the page as opposed to like, oh, just press play, press pause.
Yeah. So my other suggestion to, the young listeners is, take a little bit of the old and a little bit of the new, meld it together and make your own recipe.
Absolutely. What upcoming projects or books that you have, speaking of books, that you have going on moving forward in the future that you're willing to share with our listeners?
Sure. So I just published the excuse me, the Dream Journal.
The dream.
The Dream Journal is on Amazon. And the Dream Journal, you hold the pen that writes the chapters to your life.
Mm,
And I wrote that journal And as you can see, I've written like 3 journals because I like writing things down.
Sure.
I'd have journals. But anyway, I wrote that because as young people, many times we're asked that question. So, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do? And we have all these grandiose ideas, right? And then as life continues, as you just mentioned, you get out of college, it gets methodical, we stop daydreaming.
Mm, that's right.
So, this journal encourages you to think about your dreams consistently. What is it that you want to do? Prayerfully, I'll be 65 in October. I'm still building dreams. We talked about earlier, my goal is to run in all 50 states and on all 7 continents. I'm dreaming. And I know that we have the ability to dream up until the time that they throw the dirt on us. So
Mm,
this journal is a great tool for that. I also have a book on my table right now. It's on property management.
okay.
Specifically, it's not a journal. It is a book on property management, how we've done it, how we do it, and all sorts of tips and tools. And it actually will include a interview that I had on Bigger Pockets
Oh,
with Liz Faircloth as a bonus. So
I have.
that's in the making.
They're awesome too. Like just off topic, like let's Faircloth and Matt Faircloth. I met up with Matt last month, I believe. Last
Mhm,
month we were in like a regional mastermind, and
mhm,
he's awesome. He asked we were in his hot seat again.
mhm,
It's like a tradition at this point, like putting me in a hot seat, and
mhm.
we were discussing businesses, and he asked a really great question. I'm pretty sure Liz does the same way
She
with you.
does.
Yeah.
She does. So property management book, and what's further down on the list is a great digital tool that I have created.
Mm.
I can't give the name because I haven't finished the trademark yet, but it's definitely on the docket to be released hopefully in the next year. It is a digital dashboard that allows you to track all of your properties
Oh, wow.
and all of your personal. We've had experiences going to lenders where they've asked a question and the the lender has asked the question kind of like half-heartedly, like, "I'm sure you don't know this." And my husband will side-eye me like she knows the answer. "What is your net worth?"
Mm.
Right? And many times on the personal side and as investors, we're out here just moving it. Do we really know the answer? So this dashboard will marry your personal and your real estate to then spill out your net worth, but also track everything on both sides.
Is this like an Excel spreadsheet? Okay.
Is zhuzhed. And we've been using it for decades
Sure.
to manage, our life business, and I wanna make it available.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, we're definitely looking forward to it. All the books and stuff we'll put it on the show notes. Where can people find more about you, Kim?
I can be found on social media at LLDOCS30, LLDOCS30 on Instagram and on Facebook, and our website is LLDOCS30.com as well. I'm sharing that right now, but we're actually working on a rebrand. So just follow me and you'll see the countdown on the rebrand. We have a great marketing team that's
Okay.
doing the rebrand for us right now.
We're looking forward from the books. We're looking forward from the rebrand. We're definitely looking forward from the dashboard because a lot of investors need that,
Yeah.
myself included. And we'll see you on the next one.
And lastly, I will be speaking at Jumpstart Germantown
Okay.
in July and South Jersey RIA shortly as well.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank
Well,
you.
Kim, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. Signing off. Thank you so much for watching or listening to the Kaizen Blueprint podcast. If you got value from today's episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It really helps us grow and reach more listeners like you. And don't forget to stay connected. Subscribe to our newsletter at kaizenblueprint.com for exclusive insights, resources, and updates. Keep striving for growth, take action. And remember, small, consistent improvements create massive impact. See you on the next episode. Peace out.